The silence in the crowded bistro was not empty. For Lily, it was a suffocating weight, a vacuum where the air should have been, replaced by the visual cacophony of staring eyes and twisted mouths. The vibration of a heavy hand slamming onto the mahogany table rattled the silverware, a sensation that shot through her fingertips and straight into her chest, telling her everything she needed to know about the man sitting across from her without hearing a single word. Brad, a man who looked perfect in his profile picture, chiseled jaw, expensive suit. A smile that promised warmth was now a contorted mask of irritation and disbelief. He wasn't yelling. Or perhaps he was. Lily couldn't tell the volume. But she could read the exaggerated, slow movement of his lips, the way people do when they think intelligence is linked to hearing. I said, his lips shaped the words with cruel precision, "This isn't going to work. I signed up for a dinner date, not a babysitting job where I have to use hand puppets to order a drink." He stood up, the motion abrupt and violent enough to knock over the small vase of carnations between them. Water spilled across the tablecloth, dark and spreading like a stain of shame. But he didn't reach to stop it. He just threw a crumpled $20 bill onto the wet mess, looked around at the other patrons to ensure they were witnessing his righteous indignation, and sneered, "Good luck finding someone who has the patience for this." Before we dive deeper into this story of heartbreak and the unexpected redemption that follows, if you believe that every human being deserves to be treated with dignity, and that kindness can exist even in the cruelest moments, please take a second to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that celebrates the power of the human spirit. Your support helps us share more messages of hope to the world. Lily sat frozen, the cold water from the vase dripping onto her lap, seeping into the red dress she had spent 3 hours choosing. She had felt beautiful in front of her mirror at home, turning side to side, imagining that tonight might be different, that tonight she might meet someone who looked at her eyes before they looked for her hearing aids. Now she felt like a spectacle, a broken doll discarded in the middle of a high-end restaurant in downtown Seattle. She could feel the gaze of the room on her. In her peripheral vision, she saw a couple 2 tables away whispering, their eyes darting toward her, and then away when she looked up. A waiter hesitated nearby, holding a towel, but afraid to approach the epicenter of such raw humiliation. Lily wanted to scream, to stand up and defend herself, to explain that she was an accomplished graphic designer, that she loved poetry, that she could feel music in the floorboards better than most people heard it with their ears. But her throat was tight, constricted by the familiar, bitter taste of rejection. She kept her head down, her hands trembling as she reached for her purse, wishing she could dissolve into the floor. The silence she lived in was usually her sanctuary, a place of peace. But in this moment, it was a prison cell, and Brad had just publicly locked the door and thrown away the key. The date had been doomed from the start. Though Lily had tried so hard to be optimistic, they had matched on a popular dating app, and she had been explicit in her bio, "Deaf, but I love loud conversations about art and life." Fluent in ASL and lip reading, Brad evidently hadn't read past the first photo. When she arrived, 5 minutes early, her heart was drumming a rhythm of nervous hope against her ribs. She had greeted him with a warm smile and a spoken hello, her voice slightly accented but clear, the result of years of speech therapy. The look on his face hadn't been confusion, it was instant disappointment. He had spent the first 10 minutes checking his watch, refusing to make eye contact, mumbling into the menu so she couldn't read his lips. When she finally took out her phone to type a polite message asking him to face her so she could understand him, he had snapped. That was the moment the water spilled. That was the moment he decided her disability was an inconvenience he wasn't willing to suffer through, not even for the duration of an appetizer. Now, alone at the table, Lily fought back hot tears. She wouldn't cry here. She wouldn't give him, or these staring strangers, the satisfaction of seeing her break. She focused on the spilled water, watching it drip, drip, drip. She began to gather her things, her movements mechanical. She grabbed her clutch, her phone, and started to slide out of the booth, intending to walk out with her head high, even if her heart was in shatters. But as she moved, a shadow fell over the table. She flinched, thinking Brad had returned to twist the knife, to demand his $20 back, or deliver one last insult. She looked up, her defensive walls slamming into place, eyes narrowing, ready to withstand another blow. But it wasn't Brad. Standing there was a man she hadn't noticed before. He was tall, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners and a weary but gentle posture. He wore a simple flannel shirt and jeans, a stark contrast to Brad's polished suit. And he was holding the hand of a little girl who looked to be about 6 years old. The girl, with unruly curls and bright, curious eyes, was clutching a stuffed rabbit. The man didn't look at the mess on the table. He didn't look at the staring patrons. He looked directly at Lily. He didn't speak. He didn't offer a pitying smile or a verbal apology on behalf of his gender. Instead, he slowly raised his hands. Lily's breath hitched. Her eyes widened as she watched his fingers move with deliberate, fluid grace. He wasn't flailing or miming, he was signing. "I saw what happened," he signed, his movements slightly rusty but clear and grammatically perfect. American Sign Language. He was a fool. "You look stunning in that red dress." For a moment, Lily forgot how to breathe. The ambient visual noise of the restaurant faded away, leaving only the man and his moving hands. It was as if a lifeline had been thrown into the middle of a stormy ocean. She stared at him, her mouth slightly open, unable to process the shift from cruelty to unexpected kindness. He paused, looking a bit sheepish, then continued signing. "I hope I am not intruding. My daughter, Sophie, saw you too. She thinks you look like a princess." He gestured down to the little girl, who gave a shy, toothy wave and then signed, "Princess," pointing at Lily. Lily's tears, which she had fought so hard to suppress, finally spilled over, but they weren't tears of shame anymore. They were tears of relief, of being seen. She dropped her purse back onto the seat and raised her own trembling hands. "Thank you," she signed back, her movements fluid and native. "I felt very small. I thought everyone was laughing." The man shook his head firmly. "They aren't laughing. They are just rude. May we sit? Just for a minute. I don't want you to be alone right now." Lily nodded, unable to form words or signs, simply gesturing to the empty booth. Seat opposite her, the seat where the monster had sat just moments ago. The man slid in, lifting his daughter onto the bench beside him. He grabbed a handful of napkins from the dispenser and casually threw them over the spilled water, covering the mess Brad had made, physically and metaphorically. "I'm Ethan," he signed, then spelled it out. "E-T-H-A-N. And this is Sophie." "I'm Lily," she signed back. She took a deep breath, wiping her cheeks. "You sign very well, Ethan. Are you?" She trailed off, asking the question with her eyebrows. Was he deaf? Was he an interpreter? Ethan smiled, a sad, soft smile that reached his eyes. He paused for a moment, looking down at his daughter, smoothing her hair. Then he looked back at Lily and signed, "My wife. Sophie's mom. She was deaf. We lost her 3 years ago to cancer." The signs were heavy, laden with a grief that had softened over time but never truly vanished. "She taught me. She taught us." Our home was a silent one, full of signs. I miss the quiet. I miss the language. When I saw you, when I saw how he treated you, it broke my heart. It made me angry. Lily felt a pang of sympathy, so strong it eclipsed her own pain. She reached across the table, instinctively, then pulled back, not wanting to overstep. "I am so sorry, Ethan. She must have been wonderful." She was. Ethan signed. She would have thrown a drink in that guy's face. Lily let out a startled laugh, a sound that felt foreign in her throat after the last hour. "I wish I had been that brave." "You were brave," Ethan insisted, his hands moving with conviction. "You sat there with dignity, while a small man tried to make himself feel big. That is bravery." Sophie, who had been watching the exchange with wide eyes, suddenly tugged on her father's sleeve. She signed to Lily, "Do you like bunnies?" lifting her stuffed rabbit. That Lily smiled. A genuine, radiant smile that transformed her face. "I love bunnies," she signed back slowly so the child could follow. "Does yours have a name?" "Mr. Hop," Sophie signed, giggling. For the next hour, the rest of the world ceased to exist. They didn't order food. They just talked. Ethan ordered a coffee for himself and a hot chocolate for Sophie and a tea for Lily. They spoke of everything and nothing. Ethan told her about his job as a landscape architect, how he loved shaping the earth, making things grow from nothing. Lily told him about her graphic design, how she saw the world in grids and colors, how she tried to translate the music she felt into images. They laughed over the difficulties of translating certain idioms, the beauty of the visual language they shared. Lily realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't straining. She wasn't trying to read lips in dim light or guessing the context of a mumbled sentence. She was relaxed. She was understood. Ethan was different. He didn't treat her deafness as a hurdle to clear. He treated it as a part of who she was, a culture he respected and missed. He watched her hands with a focus that felt intimate, bordering on reverent. He noticed the way she used her facial expressions to nuance her signs, the way she shifted her body to convey tone. "You know," Ethan signed, his expression turning serious as the bustle of the dinner rush began to slow down. "I came here tonight because I didn't want to cook. I was feeling lonely. Sophie was missing her mom today. We almost went to the drive-thru, but something told me to come inside. I almost canceled," Lily admitted, her fingers moving slowly. "I was afraid of exactly what happened. I'm used to the rejection, but it still hurts. I'm glad you came inside, Ethan." "Me too," he signed. "Lily, I know this is sudden, and considering your night, you might never want to see a restaurant again, but I would love to take you to dinner. A real dinner. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere with good lighting, no shouting, just this." He gestured between them. Lily looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the kindness, the integrity, the history of love and loss that mirrored her own resilience. She looked at Sophie, who was now drawing on a napkin, humming a vibration Lily could feel against the table. She thought of Brad, the man who had seen her as a burden. And she looked at Ethan, who saw her as a blessing. "I would like that," she signed. "But on one condition." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Anything. You have to let me buy Sophie a dessert right now. She's been very patient." Ethan laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that Lily felt in her chest. "Deal." As they got up to leave, the bistro felt different. The staring eyes didn't matter anymore. The whispers were irrelevant. Lily walked out of the restaurant not as the rejected girl in the red dress, but as a woman who had been found. As they reached the door, the cool night air hitting their faces, the door swung open and Brad walked in, frantically patting his pockets. He must have left his phone or his wallet. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw Lily, not alone and crying in the booth, but standing at the entrance, laughing, flanked by a tall, rugged man and a cute child. Brad blinked, looking from Lily to Ethan. He saw the way Ethan's hand rested protectively on the small of Lily's back. He saw the lightness in Lily's face. For a second, he looked like he wanted to speak, to perhaps offer a half-hearted apology. Now that he saw she wasn't a desperate charity case, but a woman desired by someone else, he opened his mouth. That Ethan stepped forward, just an inch, shielding Lily. He didn't sign this time. He spoke, his voice deep and resonant, loud enough for the host stand to hear. "She's out of your league, man. Keep walking." Brad's mouth snapped shut. He looked at Ethan's imposing frame, then at Lily's defiant gaze, and shrunk. He sidestepped them and hurried into the restaurant, diminished. Lily looked up at Ethan, her heart soaring. She hadn't heard what he said, but she felt the rumble of his voice, and she saw the steel in his jaw. She tapped his arm. "What did you say?" she signed. Ethan smiled, the steel melting back into warmth. "I told him he made a big mistake." Lily smiled, taking his arm as they walked toward the parking lot. "I think he did me a favor," she signed. "He made space for you." The three of them walked down the sidewalk under the city lights. Sophie skipped ahead, clutching Mr. Hop. Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. It wasn't just about romance. It was about connection. It was about the universe correcting a wrong in the most beautiful way possible. She realized that sometimes you have to endure the noise of the world to find the one person who understands your silence. The humiliation of the evening had burned away, replaced by the warmth of a new promise. She looked at her hands, the hands that Brad had mocked, and saw them now as Ethan saw them, instruments of beauty, capable of weaving a future. We all have moments where we feel broken, discarded, or misunderstood. Lily's story reminds us that our value does not decrease based on someone else's inability to see our worth. Rejection is often just a redirection to something better, something or someone who speaks your language, whether that's spoken word, sign language, or the language of the heart. But before we conclude this story, I have a special request for you. If you have ever had Ethan in your life, someone who stepped in when you were at your lowest, reminded you of your worth, please comment their name below or share your story in the comments. Let's fill the comment section with tributes to the heroes who show up when we need them most. As Lily, Ethan, and Sophie walked into the night, the red dress didn't signify a failed date anymore. It signified the night life began again. It was the night the silence broke, not with noise, but with love. So, the next time you feel like the world is too loud, or that no one understands you, remember Lily. Remember that the right person won't ask you to be different. They will just learn how to talk to you. They will look at you and say, in whatever language you speak, "You are beautiful." If this story touched your heart, Please don't forget to like the video and share it with friends and family. It helps us so much. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to join our community of story lovers. Remember, you are never truly alone, and you are always worthy of love. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.